children, people are like, oh, oh man, yeah. It's quite fun. We call them the Watson 7. We call them our 7 arrows. And the oldest will be 17 at the end of the month. She's a ballerina. She actually drives from where we live down in Chattahoochee Hills all the way up here every single day to go to Terminus Dance Company. So she's the ballerina. Then we have a runner. We've got one who is 12 years old. He wears a size 15 shoe, and he is 170 pounds or so, and wants nothing to do with sports. Which is strange, but it's okay with me. You don't have to be an athlete, that's fine. Our last 2 kids are identical twin boys named Asher and Levi. We call them Typhoon and Tornado because they are all boy all the time. So we have 16 down to 6, and they should be getting out of school right about now. I told them I'd be home a little bit late, but it is an honor to be here with you. It's always fun to connect with Bulldogs. I get an opportunity to speak around the country for different things. And whenever there is at least 1 or 2 Georgia fans in the room, I always bark at them and they bark back at me. I know I don't have to do that here, but it's exciting to be here with all of you. We all have a journey. The title of my talk is Lessons from the Locker Room, Leadership and Resiliency Under Pressure. And we all have a journey that has shaped us. We all have things that have happened to us in our lives, whether they be yesterday or 10 years from now or 20 years ago, that has shaped us, whether it was our family of origin, whether it was an injury that we went through, maybe it was a failure, maybe it was a success, maybe it was a certain class that you went through that kind of changed everything for you. For me, being at University of Georgia, I remember walking into Terry College of Business, not knowing what I wanted to major in, and I went into a finance class of all things, or finance, depending on how you say it, and and immediately I just gravitated toward that degree. I loved the numbers, I loved the storylines, I loved everything about it, and I ended up majoring in finance. My wife was a marketing major. We actually met at University of Georgia, and I was telling Christine earlier that we actually graduated in 2003 together, sitting next to each other. We did the whole stand up and sit down thing with all other, 10,000 people that were graduating that evening. There are stories that have made you who you are today. They brought you to this point. And the hope that I have in this time that I get to talk with you is to highlight some of the things that have happened to me, but also to propel you forward as you make a difference in this world. I work at the SEC Network, and I get the opportunity to watch college football games and also to watch, obviously, University of Georgia. And there's always this thing that happens throughout the season where you see one team that starts off pretty well, and then they end up bombing. And then you see a team that starts off fairly poorly, and they end up getting better. And I've always wondered, and I've always thought about what determines perfection? What determines a team's ability to get better over the season? And I spent most of my life in locker rooms, like some of you have. I spent my time in high school playing different sports, spent my time in college. And there are 3 things that have really stuck out to me as I think about the way we as individuals have to attack our life. There are 3 things that stick out to me from my time playing sports that even identify how we as a corporation, as you lead corporations, how you will make a difference in this world. I was in Florida earlier, and somebody asked me, what makes one team able to sustain success and handle pressure more than another? What makes one team able to handle success and pressure more than another? Because a lot of times it's not talent, right? A lot of times you've seen teams that have incredible talent, but for whatever reason, things fall apart. They're not able to rise to the moment. They're not able to sustain success over time. Every successful team and leader exhibits 3 things. And this is where I want to camp out for the time that we have together. Number 1, they prioritize preparation. Number 2, they exhibit perseverance. And number 3, they live with proper perspective. Every successful leader, successful person, successful team does 3 things. They prioritize preparation, they exhibit perseverance, and they live with a proper perspective. Prioritizing preparation. 2004, I got drafted by the New England Patriots. No Patriot fans? Yeah, it's kind of rough, huh? I know we're in Georgia. Got drafted by the New England Patriots in 2004, and I graduated University of Georgia in 2003. I went down to Bradenton, Florida to train for the draft. I didn't know where I was going to end up. I just knew I wanted to make it to the NFL. That was always my dream. 2004, I'm sitting at my parents' home in Rock Hill, South Carolina, and we didn't even have cable television. My dad bought cable television so that we could watch ESPN so that I could watch the draft, so he could watch his son get drafted. The picks start going by, and around pick number 30, I get a call, and it is Mr. Robert Kraft from the New England Patriots. He owns the Patriots. And he said, son, do you want to be a Patriot? And I said, I don't care what the team is. Yes, I want to be a Patriot. All right, you're going to come to New England. I said, where's New England? I had no idea. So I get drafted by the New England Patriots in 2004. I had so much excitement. I was a 32nd pick in the draft. And I was ready to go up there and, live out my dream, make the people back home proud of me, do all those sorts of things. And I remember getting there, and one of the first things that we did as the season started, every single week, you play a different team, obviously, but every single week, they prepare a scouting report for you. Now, this scouting report has everything you need to know about the opposition, everything. It has their underwear size. It has the defensive end's diet, what he likes to eat. It has the backup players after him all the way down to the third and where they went to school. And so they hand out this scouting report, and the expectation was that we learn the scouting report for the Buffalo Bills that were going to play on that Sunday. And so I picked up the scouting report. Now they're on iPads, but back then it was a thick notebook that you had every single week that you learned about your opponent. I see guys in the locker room kind of thumbing through the scouting report, and what I didn't know was that when we got into the team meeting, Coach Belichick was going to ask us questions about the scouting report. So we're in the team meeting, and he asked us questions about the coverages. He asked us questions about what we were going to do on third down. He asked us questions, if the starting safety gets hurt, Benjamin, who's going to come in and replace him? And where did he go to school? And what kind of coverages does he like to run? Is he fast or is he slow? And line by line by line, Coach Belichick wanted us to be the most prepared team in the NFL. He wanted us to be so prepared that when we got on the field, nothing was a surprise. That when we got on the field, we already knew what the other team was going to do before they even did it. And not only that, he wanted us to know what we were going to do so well that we weren't surprised by anything that happened. I'm ashamed to say that many times I did not know the answers, and he embarrassed me as such. He would ask somebody else your question if you couldn't get your question right. But his point was that he wanted his team to know everything about even the referees so that we would have the best opportunity to succeed. He prioritized preparation. He would also say that practice performance becomes game time reality. Practice performance becomes game time reality. What that means for me and for you is that success isn't just going to happen for you. You're not just going to wake up and be an incredible leader. You're not just going to wake up and all of a sudden things are just going to start falling into place and you're going to be the great mother or father for those of you who have children. You're not just going to be a great spouse unless you prepare. Practice performance becomes game time reality. He also wanted us to know that pressure doesn't just create character, it reveals it. Ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, you're going to go through some pressure cookers at work, at home, in your personal life. You're going to go through times where it seems like the bottom is going to fall out. Some of you who have lived through the economic downturns and the economic successes, maybe your parents told you about it, maybe you're old enough to experience some of it. You're going to have times when you come to work and you're leading a team and you're like, oh my goodness, do I got to lay somebody off? Like, this is a pressure cooker. You're going to have to make some decisions that might not be popular even in your personal life. But pressure doesn't create the character. The character is created from the preparation. The pressure reveals who you already are. Sometimes people will ask me as a football player, what was it like being in the huddle with Tom Brady? I'm like, man, I was just trying not to look into his eyes. What was it like being, and the answer is this, you never got nervous. You never felt like things were out of whack. You never felt like you didn't have a chance to succeed. And it wasn't just because you had number 12, although that's part of it. It It was because of the preparation that went in every single week when nobody's watching and you're working, when nobody's watching and you're making sure you do things right, when nobody's watching and you're sacrificing and you're stacking brick by brick so that when the time comes and the pressure hits, your true character is revealed and you're able to rise to the occasion. So much of what you see, especially in the sports world, is just the tip of the iceberg. It's the tip of the iceberg. Sunday is the tip of the iceberg. There's so much below the surface that people will never know. But if you prioritize your preparation, it will allow you to be the leaders in your various sectors that you've been called and prepared and you desire to be. The second thing, they exhibit perseverance. They exhibit perseverance. Perseverance is tenacity, it's resolve, it's determination. The clinical definition of perseverance is persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. Perseverance is persistence. It's the fact that you keep on going. You don't take no for an answer. You don't take failure for an answer. You don't take misunderstanding for an answer. You have a goal and you decide to keep on going even when there are obstacles in your way. There's a clip, a play that I want to share with you that in my estimation, kind of explains what I'm talking about when I'm talking about perseverance. Christine, could you roll that for me? Oh, there we go.
Ben Watson, this is a great example. Play until the whistle blows. Ben Watson shows the hustle, doesn't give up on the play, and he hit Champ Bailey and looked at him like he was
So my kids saw that one time and they were like, why is it so grainy? Like, I can't even, did y'all not have HD back then? Like, what is this? This is a first. I have never, in any sort of speech that I've given, used that play. I feel like it's kind of pretentious to show yourself up there playing, but I thought you guys would be cool because those are two bulldogs on there and y'all are bulldogs. But perseverance. You have to exhibit perseverance in your life. On that play, there were 3 or 4 main characters. Number one, there was a guy that was throwing a football that got intercepted. If you saw the clip of him throwing an interception, you probably would say to yourself, man, that guy's no good. He just throws interceptions. But he persevered through that moment, and as the story goes, he won 7 Super Bowls, and he's going into the Hall of Fame whenever he's eligible, or if he decides not to come back and play. His name is Tom Brady. On the other end of that interception, there was a guy who had a great moment, and his name is Champ Bailey. And he played for 15 years and has a gold jacket. But he didn't finish all the way through the line, and somebody might say, oh man, that guy, he didn't finish. But he persevered not only through that moment, but through so many other moments and became one of the, if not the greatest defensive backs the league has ever seen. There was another guy who's never going to get a gold jacket, but he saw what happened on the other side of the field and decided that he was going to try to make a play for his team. And he had to get through the obstacles of the referee standing in his way. He had to get through the obstacles of running in mile-high air with all this equipment on. He had to get through the obstacles of feeling like, man, this guy that I'm chasing is, I know, probably faster than me because he was one of my heroes, watching him play, so I know he's faster. And he had to keep persisting until getting to the point of intersection where the play was made because of perseverance. Ladies and gentlemen, you have to persevere in your life. And you know this, that leaders persevere not only for themselves, but as a leader, whether it's in the C-suite or entry level, whether it's at home, whether it's in your recreation, whether it's in your social life, whether it's in your church, that leaders persevere not just for yourselves, but you persevere for all the people that follow you. Sometimes you'll want to give up. Sometimes you want to throw in the towel. Sometimes you'll feel like I can never catch this person. Sometimes you'll feel like the referees got the call wrong, which they did. You'll feel all those sorts of things, but you also realize that your perseverance is not just about you. It's about your team that you're leading. It's about the people at home that call you mommy and daddy or husband and wife. It's about more than you. On the work side of it, you can put it like this: talent gets you in the door, but character and perseverance keeps you in the room. Talent will get you in the door, but character and perseverance will keep you in the room. In my second or third year of playing football, I had a coach tell me I would never play again. And he didn't tell me this because I tore my ACL, which I did. He didn't tell me this because I had other injuries, concussions, which I did. He told me this because I was a little bit off on my seam route, and I was maybe 3 feet from where I was supposed to be. Very small thing. And he told me that I would never play in the NFL. I played 12 more years after that. There are people in your lives, in your past, that have told you that you would never be X. They told you wouldn't be sitting in the seat right here where you are. They've told you that because of something that you've done, or maybe because of where you're from, or maybe because you got a poor grade on something. They told you that it would cast a light on where you would go in the future, but you persevered. So the task as a leader is to understand that there's more persevering to do. So the 2 things so far, they prioritize preparation, they exhibit perseverance. And the third thing is they live with the proper perspective. Leaders, successful leaders, resilient leaders, live with the proper perspective. As I mentioned before, I get to work at the SEC network, and we're in there for 14 weeks of the season. There's 12 games, but it takes 14 weeks, plus the media days, plus the playoff, which the playoff takes entirely too long, does it? Side note, can we agree on that? Like the playoff, like why is it January 19th and we're playing the national championship? Or maybe we're just salty because Georgia wasn't in it. That's how I felt. But I get to sit there and watch all these games. And what I love to do as an analyst is watch the All 22. The All 22. The All 22 is just kind of nicknamed for the film where it shows the whole field. So when you watch the game on TV, they'll show everybody sometimes, but sometimes they show like a close-up on a player or on the play. But I love watching the All 22 because the All 22, or the wide copy, shows me everything that's happening in the play. I can see the route concepts. I can see, the offensive line. I can see the quarterback going through his progressions. I can see the safety on defense, how they rotate to go to cover 3, and the one safety comes down. I can see the big picture of everything on the All 22. Sometimes, though, I want to watch the tight copy. And I remember as a player, loving to see the All 22, but the tight copy is where you really see the details. Like the tight copy of your life is the day-to-day of your life. The tight copy for an athlete is, what are my steps like? Am I taking the right steps? Is my head placement right? Am I reading the right things? The wide copy shows the success. And for some of us, we're too stuck on the tight copy. We can't appreciate the wide copy. We have the wrong perspective of our life. For some of us, we are depressed or disappointed, or we're over-concentrated on some minute mistake, and we're unable to take a step back and see the beauty of the way your life has been orchestrated. See, the challenge there is on any particular play in football, the tight copy will show some things that you did poorly, but also some things that you did well, but the wide copy will show the completion of the play. Good leaders that are resilient are able to live life with the proper perspective. They're able to see the bigger picture. I had a coach tell me like this: realize that it's not as good as you think it is, and it's also not as bad as you think it is. I don't know about you, but I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I mentioned being drafted to the Patriots early, 2004. I was a 32nd pick, and I got to New England. I have all these expectations for myself, and I tore my ACL, and I was out for much of the year. The team went on to not only have a good season, but actually won a Super Bowl. As a rookie, I thought you just won a Super Bowl every year. Like, I thought that's just how it operated, you know. I just thought that's just what you did. So they go to the Super Bowl, they win a Super Bowl, and I felt terrible. I felt like I let everybody down. I felt like I was almost worthless because I couldn't do my job. My fiance at the time, who we've been married for 20 years now, my parents were there. They were all encouraging me, but I was on this roller coaster of up and down, depending on how well football was going. And how many of you can relate to your worth or your countenance being tied to how well you do at your job? I think one of the biggest challenges for all of us who are high performing, who have high goals, who are highly talented, who have leadership capabilities, is to be able to say, my worth, and this is perspective, my worth is not tied explicitly to what job I land. It's not tied explicitly to who sees what I do and gives me acclaim. It's not tied specifically to how much money I make. I have value as a person because of my Creator. That's a hard thing to do. And I struggled with that so much, especially early in my career. But again, it's about perspective. Having a proper perspective about yourself. You will experience failure, but don't let that failure define your worth. You'll experience failure. Everybody does. You will experience failure in this life, but don't let failure define your worth. The other part of perspective is having an outward view of how you can impact others. My wife puts it like this. She'll say, Benjamin, it's not about you. It's not about you. You think it's not about you. And what she's saying to me in that moment is, I'm feeling like it's me, me, me. How can I be served? What can I do? My life, my life, my life. And she's saying, you know what? It's not just about you. It's about what you're doing for other people. It's about how you work into this bigger picture. It's not all about you. One of my favorite scriptures is Micah 6:8. It's in the Old Testament, and it goes like this. It says, He has told you, O man, what is good, and what does the Lord require of you but to do justice, to love kindness, and to walk humbly with your God. You are and you will be in positions of power, whether that be economic, whether it be political, social. You are, you will be increasingly those who are able to do good for many people. You are, you will be people who are not only looked to in your organizations as leaders, but you will be looked to as leaders in communities. It's not all about you. It's not all about how many promotions you can get or how much your company can be valued. That's all important. Don't get me wrong. This is business. We're here for that. But what's the legacy piece that even as a young alumni of Terry College of Business that you're looking at? What's the bigger picture? What's your perspective? Success in leadership is measured in what you build and who you impact, not just in what you collect. Success is measured in who you build, what you build, and who you impact, not just in the things, in the accolades, and the ladder that you're climbing, that you collect. So, final takeaways, just two of them, and I know we want to do some questions as well, but think about this. Leadership is not a title, it's a responsibility. Leadership is not a title, it's a responsibility. Falcons fans in here? Okay, so I played for the Saints. Played there for 4 years, the New Orleans Saints, and loved our time in New Orleans. Really loved playing the Falcons, probably because we beat them a lot, you know. And I feel like I always had a good game because all the Georgia people were watching, and I was like, oh, I'm ready to play the Falcons. Like, I just was excited about those games. My in-laws are all Falcons fans, and they'd come and then my kids would talk trash to their in-laws because, you know, they do all the hootats and everything. In 2015, I was voted a captain. one of the biggest honors of my life, to be a captain for an NFL team. Being voted by your peers to represent them at the coin toss, being voted by your peers as a leader, as somebody that could be trusted, was by far a very, 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 very special time. But what I realized was just because I had the C on my chest, that didn't make me a leader. That was just evidence of my leadership. What made me a leader was all the things, all the practices that I showed up for, all of the conversations that I had one-on-ones with teammates. It was how they saw me operate in my daily life. And then because of those things, they decided to put a C on my chest. But there were also a lot of other guys that didn't have a C on their chest, but they were leaders. Leadership isn't just a title. It's a responsibility. And also, if you don't have the proverbial C on your chest right now in your organization, understand that you're still a leader in some capacity. Leadership is about how you care for others. It is about how you conduct yourself. It is about your sacrifice. And yes, it's about your production for sure. But leadership is more than just a title. I've known a lot of leaders who had titles who were horrible leaders. They just happen to have a title. Leadership's not a title, it's responsibility. And then lastly, pressure is a privilege. I had this conversation with my daughter. She runs cross country, but she's really good in track, but she feels a lot of pressure when she runs track because everybody's looking at you and you're in a lane all by yourself. Like, I get it. Track is, I mean, if anybody ran track, you know, you get up there in the blocks and then there's this silence. Then they shoot a gun and you got to run. Talk about pressure. So she struggles with that. And I tell her over and over again, yeah, like there's going to be pressure in life. It's a privilege because you've earned it because of what you've already done. So we don't run from the pressure. We understand that it's part of it. We understand that our character is revealed in it. And we walk boldly into it because that's what we've been prepared to do. So Terry, it's been a joy to speak with you. So many lessons that I have learned, that you have learned, but my experience on the field, my experience in the locker room has shaped me. And again, going back to that original statement that I made, each of you has a story. You know, each of you has experiences, failures, successes that have shaped you and brought you to where you are right now. The question is, what can you glean from those and hold on to from those that can propel you into the future? My hope is that you become leaders that prioritize the preparation, that you take preparation seriously, that you prepare in ways that nobody else will, that you do things that nobody else will, that you understand that, you know, how you undergird yourself from a preparatory standpoint will push you forward, that you understand that perseverance is worth it, that perseverance is what we need to push through, but also that you live a life in business and out of business that is beyond yourself. Like, live a life that is impactful. Like, live a life that people want to talk about, that people want to come see you, that is outside of the four walls of whatever office or whatever organization that you work in, that is finding ways to impact people's lives. Thank you, guys. Yeah, I'd love to take some questions if there are any. Yes, sir.
First of all, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. Really enjoyed your presentation, your speech overall. One thing that really stuck out to me, you said it's not always all about you, and it's kind of like how you fit in the bigger picture of things, and kind of like relating that and resonating with something that I'm going through in this season of life right now. I'm coaching 9 and 10-year-old boys for basketball, but one thing that I wanted to ask is, how do you think you'll always have to decide between like winning and equality / equity sometimes? And what I mean by that is, like, we have 9 players on our team, right? There's about 4 to 5 players on the team who score often, who we can rely on for certain things, but now being in a different perspective, I want those other 4 players or 5 players to get that opportunity, get those experiences, to get the chance to score. But we're also trying to balance that with get into the playoffs, get into the championship.
Trying to win, right?
So I think our latest ownership performance, like apply that to other areas in our life, like whether that is the same people who might be in those client-facing meetings, or whether that's at work, or somebody might always be on the front line and you want it to be that team effort. But when you're in that leadership position and everybody doesn't understand all of the pieces, but you can see the entire purview, like how do you go about making those decisions where those are very, very difficult?
Man, that's funny you mentioned that because my son plays basketball. It's his first season playing basketball. And boy, he can't dribble. Man, you have to bounce it. You can't just hold it. Like, you got to bounce the ball. And it's a situation like that. He is literally the last guy on the bench. He's the last guy on the bench. And there are 5 other players that score most of the points, and they're trying to win games, and he gets to play a little bit sometimes. And it's difficult. One of the things that the coach did, and I'm sure you do this, and we can relate it to business as well. But one of the things that the coach did very, very early on, Chris, was he analyzed all his team, and he communicated with them how they were going to play. And not only with them, he communicated with their parents, because some of these parents think their kids should play, and ain't no way in the world should your kid play. Like, you know your kid ain't good. Like, seriously, no, we're not playing your kid right now. But he let the coaches, he let us know as parents, and he told the kids exactly how they were going to play. He gets them in when he can. My son plays usually when the team is ahead, usually at the end of the first half and the end of the game, but he continues to communicate that. And so I think the communication is key. Everybody wants to proverbially play, whether it's the folks you're talking about, in business, or the kids on the bench. What frustrates us is when we're not being communicated to. When you as a leader are not talking to your team and saying, I want you to be here, but I don't think you're ready to be here. You might be ready to be here after these things happen, and I'm cheering for you to be here. But for the health of the organization as a leader, I can't put you there because of the goals that we have. And I really think that people respect that. Kids understand it, but I think adults respect it. So the key that I've seen, and what I would say, is communicating those types of goals. Because you know what else it does? It values their work. It makes them feel valued because you took the time to explain why they're in their stead. But it also allows them to understand exactly what I need to do to be where I want to go. Yeah. Good luck, dude. No, that's good. I do. Yeah.
First off, thanks for your time. It's great to hear your message. One of my kind of personal goals right now is being more methodical with my preparation for not just work-related things, but everything. Yeah. I imagine that preparation kind of looks different as a player versus now your current role with SEC Network. Yeah. So, kind of wanted to hear just a little bit more detail about some of the principles that are consistent between both, and kind of how those manifest themselves for you today.
Yeah, well, the first principle is that everybody's different in their preparation, but you can always learn from somebody else's preparation for your own. So everybody's different. Everybody learns differently. Everybody has different capacity and understanding, but you can always pick up and learn something from someone else. That was one of the things, even in the NFL, was the fact that, yeah, we're competing, but I can sit here and watch you do my position and say, I'm not doing that, but I am doing that. And even as an analyst, the guys that I work with, I pick up different things from them. And so that's number one. I think the second thing about preparation was understanding not just the method by which you learn, but understanding what are the key metrics that you need to know for your specific role. There's a lot of, the AI guy was up here. AI can have you on there for 2-3 years with all that information. There's so much information. But the key thing is, Chaz, what do you need to know? What do you need to know to be excellent at your workflow? What do you need to know for whatever team you lead? What do you need to know for your task? And being able to decipher that without hearing all the other noise and learning everything that doesn't impact you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Rob Cargill here. I'm a member of the Young Alumni Board. This was such a moving presentation.
Yeah.
And I just really want to know, you've accomplished so much in your life in such a short amount of time. What is that next big goal that you want to accomplish?
Thank you for saying that I'm young. I don't feel young. Or you said a short time. Yeah, 45 years is a short time. I think right now, so as I mentioned, we have 7 children, and oldest is 16. She's a junior, and so she's a ballerina. So the light is at the end of the tunnel for her, but it's like tears for us, And so I think as a father, it is completing the first iteration of 0 to 18 years faithfully and successfully, and allowing her to go flourish whatever she's doing as far as dance goes, those sorts of things. So we're kind of in that stage of like being excited for her, but oh man, next year is going to be like, it's going to be our last Christmas. It's going to be our last Easter. Like we're in that, while simultaneously we have all the way down to young ones. So being a father faithfully and a husband faithfully in this stage of life is vitally, really important to me. I also want to graduate. I'm in online school at American University. I'm getting a master's in public policy and public administration. Don't ask me what I'm going to do with it yet. I don't know. But I have 12 hours left. And so that's important to me to land that airplane, my friend. And then there's just a lot of other things there. I'm really open. The transition is something that I didn't hit on. And even in this room, I know there are some of you who probably are transitioning from one role to another role within the same company, or perhaps you're moving to a whole nother field, whatever it is. I've been in transition out of the league for 5 years. So my last game was January of 2020. And so for me, the transition from being 39 years old, finishing up football, to where I am now has been tough. Like there's been a lot of ups and downs. When I talk about having proper perspective in transition, many times I was so minute in my perspective that things were just falling apart that I couldn't see how great some things were. And so navigating the transition well has been part of my next big things as well. So thanks for that question. Yeah, man. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Ben, just thank you for your time today. I really appreciate everything. Huge Dogs fans, go Dogs.
No doubt.
Just had a quick question about perspective. I love what you said about your value and not. It's like watering everything down to my value is not in my work, but it's in my creator. I love that.
Yeah.
Just want to hear more about as someone who's a leader of a team, how can I instill that in my team, leading people who don't have that perspective?
Yeah, I think the number one part is exhibiting that. Exhibiting, people watch you fail. They watch you succeed. And so a lot of things are caught, not taught. I do think that there are specific times where you have an opportunity to speak a word because that's you being perceptive. Some of the most important conversations, even, the NFL is football, but it's also corporate. It's business. You're going to work every day, right? And so some of those things translate as far as when are we going to talk about X, Y, and Z. But some of the most important conversations that were life-giving, which is I think is what you're talking about, is when you are paying attention to the lives of somebody that you care about in the workplace. For me, it was a teammate. For you, it's a team member, somebody that you're leading. People go through stuff, y'all. Like they go through stuff in work, they go through stuff out of work. There are things that happen in the culture that may present an opportunity for you to speak that to somebody at the proper time. But then also people are watching you. So the biggest thing is, how are you responding? What's your response when you present, the goals and you fall short? What's your response when you have to reprimand someone for something? There are standards for sure, but interlaced between there are opportunities for you to give larger messages than just the red and black, so to speak. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Ben.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Really great to be a member of the Young how often do you bring up that play to Jim Bailey? And the second question, how do you practice being resilient when things are going well? You talk so much about practicing, and practice is what happens on the field. But when things are going well, how do you practice that training?
Yeah, well, I never bring that up to Champ. He's got a gold jacket. What am I going to say? I caught you. All right, so what? I got a gold jacket. Like, you're the man. I would never bring that up to him. What's funny, though, is that anybody know what Champ's last team was? Let's see if we got any real Bulldog fans in here. Yes, it was the Saints. So in 2015, Champ came to the New Orleans Saints in the offseason. I was there with the Saints as well. We were in training camp at the Greenbrier in West Virginia. And all of a sudden, these, I say kids, but the younger players came in there like, hey, y'all, look at this video. And it was that video of me chasing Champ. And they were like, man, y'all old heads in there like chasing each other. So they had no idea that it was us too. And it actually brought up, so it became like this whole meme, laughing thing, this whole joke for the entire training camp. The fact that old Champ got caught by old Benjamin, it became like a big thing. So that was funny. But no, I don't bring it up to him. I think you bring up a good point about success and handling success and being resilient when you're successful. One of the hardest things to do, and I didn't talk about it, I probably should have, but one of the hardest things to do is to handle success. You see it on football teams all the time. And we talk about the maturity that a team might have. Can they handle success? We know you're going to fight against failure, but when things are going well, what starts to slip? Well, the first thing starts to slip is you might not be as sharp with taking care of your body. Oh, I don't need to go to the chiropractor today. I'm feeling good. We just won. Okay. You may not be as sharp with learning your playbook or the scouting report, all those sorts of things when things are going well. Translate that into your life. What are the things that, when things are going well, you're less likely or compelled to do? Those are the things that you really have to drill down on when you're successful. You have to, because human nature takes their foot off the gas pedal. That's just human nature. And you will never say to yourself, I've arrived, this is it, I'm good. You will never say that out of your mouth, but your foot will pull off the gas pedal and you'll go into cruise control and things will start to slip. In your personal life, your family life, your business life, things will start to slip. And so there's got to be probably, and you're thinking of them now, probably 2 or 3 things that's like, I've got to make sure I continue to do these because they become easier to skip when things are going well. And you hear coaches talk about it all the time. The number one thing you ask a coach is crazy. Like, we always ask the same dumb questions. For a team that's losing 3 in a row, you say, so how are you guys going to pull yourself out of this rut? Like, what are the things you need to do better? For the team that's winning 3 in a row, you say, so are the guys going to get complacent? Are the guys going to get complacent? Are they going to be, shrink back because they're doing well? And so coaches do it all the time. They preach it, but you have to have in your back pocket, what are the things? For me, it was taking care of my body, had to stay the same. I had to have the same routine. It was the playbook, of course, but it was also the routine of getting up early, centering myself, reading scripture. Those are the things that had to stay the same because you have to keep that routine even when things go well. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it. It was super insightful. My name is Emily Adello. I just graduated this past May, so
Congrats.
it's definitely super useful now that I'm stepping into post-grad and just corporate America. I really loved what you said about how leadership is about who you build and who you impact, and that it's not just solely your title. So if someone's starting, fresh out of college, what do you recommend, how to embody yourself as a leader, freshly, in a new position and on a new team? How can I create an impact even though I don't have the official title?
Yeah. Do you mind sharing where you're working, or is that?
Yeah, I'm at JLL on the office center rep team.
Okay. I think so. On the football side, you probably gleaned something from this. Every single team has a public relations department, right? They have a group of people that allow you to get in the community and do different things, whether it be going to schools to read, whether it be working, in food pantries, whatever it is. There's always some sort of opportunity for players to get outside of the locker room on Tuesdays, which is your day off, and be involved with those sorts of things. The difficult thing is to have a balance between I'm just starting out in my career as an NFL player or in business. I'm just starting out. I've got a lot of weight on myself, got a lot of expectations. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. I'm still trying to learn. I don't want to spread myself way too thin doing all these things that are important, but aren't the main thing right now. And so for you, the key is to discover who those people are in your organization, what department that is, what opportunities are available, and then perhaps do one a quarter, perhaps do one every 6 months. Understand that, have the perspective that I don't have to do everything right now, but I have to have the heart to do everything when the time comes. And so that's a heart issue. Like the things I was talking about as far as building and it's not about you, that doesn't mean you got to go do community service all the time. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, what is your heart posture to doing things that don't just benefit you, but that benefit others? And so when that opportunity comes and those things meet, boom, that's where the magic happens. Like that's when you have the satisfaction of, okay, I built something, I built into somebody else, I poured into somebody else. I made a legacy play that was outside of climbing the ladder and doing the things that I was trained and my parents paid good money for me to learn how to do. Yeah.
Hey, Benjamin, great speech. Definitely stuck. My name is Ike Wuthor, on the alumni board. Couldn't help but notice extensive career, as you mentioned, in terms of your rookie years when you played your last game. I'm also noticed that where you started is also where you finished up in terms of New England. So if there's like one character trait that you feel as if that you showed at the beginning that helped create that trust and relationship, kind of last all those years, what would you say it was?
Trust the relationship in that I came back.
Yeah.
That's a great question. I think there are a lot of them. I was very stubborn. I should have retired like a long time ago. My wife was like, "You still doing this? Like, you still dragging us across the country? Can you be done?" I was hoping this would be over in like 5 years. Like, she literally was like, "No." The reason why I went back to New England was really for me. And it was because my initial experience there, although I learned a lot of things that are applicable in life, and I talked about some of them, I was really wounded there. And when I was drafted there, without getting into all the contract details, I had to hold out for some things. I got hurt early on. I talked about the perfectionism. I had some depression. I had some anxiety. I had all these sorts of things that happened there. I played for a coach that was really tough. One of the greatest coaches, by the way. But a very tough person to play with, especially for someone who was dealing with some of the things that I was dealing with. And so when I left there for 9 years. And then I had an opportunity to play one more year as a 39-year-old man with 7 kids that had been married for 15 years at that point. And I decided to go back there because I felt like I needed to redeem it. I felt like I needed freedom from the anxiety and the hatred that I had for that place and him and others there that I carried with me to Cleveland and to New Orleans and to Baltimore. And I said, maybe I'm gonna go back with a different perspective and try to enjoy year 16, back in a place where it all started. It didn't have the magic ending. I was thinking, I'm gonna come back. Tom's gonna win his 7th Super Bowl. He was my locker mate while I was there my last year. So I was like, we're gonna win. I got 7 kids. He'll have the 7th Super Bowl. I was like, this is all gonna be perfect and everything. And this is gonna be amazing storybook ending. Well, we get beat in the first round of the playoffs by the Titans. Mike Vrabel was the coach there. And I cried like a baby because I knew it was over. But the reason why I went back was for redemption and some form of like forgiveness, you know? And so that's a little bit different than the question you asked. But part of, I would say also, that kind of goes back to your question earlier about making a difference in building. The last probably 5 years of my career, were tough. I tore my Achilles. I had a bunch of other injuries. Like it was tough year to year. But I always felt like if I get one more year in this locker room, who can I impact? Like which young man, Lord, which young men do you want me to impact? Yeah, I'm still trying to like ball. I'm still trying to start. Still trying to show these dudes that I can play, right? I still got my own goals professionally. But if I'm in here, who can I impact? And I would say that last probably 5 years was probably the most productive from a human capital standpoint, even if it wasn't as productive from a numbers and football standpoint. Yeah.
Thank you for this.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I feel like it's gonna be hard to, is it on now? I feel like it's gonna be hard to follow that.
That was my fault. He asked a simple question, and I got all misty and stuff. Yeah.
So it sounds like you've had some really great leaders, and then you like briefly glossed on having a bad leader. So what advice would you give to someone when they're working under a bad leader?
When you're working under Nero, okay. Advice for when you're working under a bad leader. Well, number one, when you're working under a bad leader, your responsibilities don't change. The number one thing that happens when there's a poor leader, and poor leadership can come in a lot of different forms. It can be someone who's verbally or physically abusive, even in the workplace. It can be someone who doesn't have a good vision. And so there's mission drift in the organization. It can be someone who is vindictive, someone who has low integrity, who lies on people, on subordinates, who dumps more on them than they should have. I mean, it could come in a lot of different forms. The number one thing though is that your job doesn't change. What I mean by that is I've had some coaches who actually went on TV to lie about what he told a player to cover his own butt. And we all knew it. We all knew it. Did that change the fact that I got a block and I got a catch? It didn't change any of that. I won't do it for him, but it didn't change what I had to do and what I was contracted to do. And so that's the first thing to understand, that his or her actions don't change what you do in the workplace. But the second thing though is, and that I learned, is that it's important to have community, and it's important to have an avenue within the workplace that is a trusted place for you to go to express your concerns. And more, I think this is happening in the workplace. There was a time where you couldn't express those things, and there might still be a situation where you can't. But I think utilizing those avenues are vitally important, if not by yourself, with 2 or 3 others. So it's a hard thing. I think also, sometimes you feel like if you blow the whistle, it'll impact you and your job, and your career. Right? Sometimes you feel like if you are the squeaky wheel, like you'll be banned and you'll be blackballed and you'll never get another job again. That's happened in my career. I've seen guys who felt that way, but also I know it happens outside of football, clearly, because you're bringing it up. And so to you, not you, but to that person who felt that way, there are avenues in people and organizations that can help you. And again, going back to the perspective, having a wide perspective. Let's say you're in a position where you've got a terrible leader that is really, really injuring you. Like not just, saying things, but like he's he or she needs to go. Don't feel like if you say something and they let you go, that you don't have protections or that it's going to be the end of your trajectory in your career. Wide angle view. There are many people who have had to leave jobs and go to another one because of a leader, and they continued and were successful in their career. So that's hard. There's a lot there.
It's not me.
Yeah, I know, but it could be somebody.
Yeah,
It could be somebody, and especially it could be somebody at some point in time. I know somebody that happened to. So and I wanted to go punch the guy. All right.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Talia. I can relate. I'm finishing up my MBA here at Jerry in September. I have 4 classes.
There you go.
But to that perspective, so what do you do when you find yourself too tightly focused and you're finding yourself there in a season longer than what you normally would have? How do you get yourself back to, or shift back to that wider angle perspective?
Yeah. I write. And what I write exactly is I write 10 things that are, it's really simple. Like, it's nothing crazy. You're probably like, whatever, dude. But it works for me. And I got this from a psychologist. She told me one time, I was dealing with some things, and she told me, just write down 10 things that are going well. I was like, that's it? That's all you want me to do? I mean, I'm paying you good money. Like, write down 10 things that are going well, and then we'll talk about it. And I did that. And it wasn't the first time I've ever done that. It wasn't the first time. I can remember having injuries, had a lot of them while I was playing. And when you have an injury, you get very, 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 very tight on every single day. You feel like, I'm about to lose my job. You literally feel like, oh, this guy's going to take my job and I'll never play again. Like, all these things start bellowing up in you. And I remember even sitting in a meeting one time at the back. I wasn't practicing, I was injured. And I said, I'm just going to write down like all the times I've been injured before now. And that jump started getting long. And I realized all these things have happened in the past, but yet here I am. And so I was making an audit of my life. And I think that part of what happens, what we need to do when we lose that perspective, when we get too tight, in a negative fashion, is we have to get a reality check. But that sometimes only happens, not from other people even talking to us, because people will tell you some great things that are true, but sometimes you need to see it for yourself. That this is going well, this is going well, this is going well. It's going to be okay. That's the first step, I think. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. We have a
Thank
gift
you.
for you.
Appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was great.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Very insightful.
All right.